Dunwall is changing fast. 6 months ago, Draper's Ward was where Dunwall's rich and well-born strolled and shopped and tried to be seen. The plague burned through it in days. Today it's a battleground where two street gangs fight over the spoils. The Hatters and Lizzie's gang, the Dead Eels. Lizzie Stride was the boss until Edgar Wakefield betrayed her and took her place. And the riverboat. It's the kind of thing that happens every day in Dunwall. I don't judge him. I've done worse myself. But I need that boat. Edgar Wakefield and I have business.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to this playthrough of the Brigmore Witches DLC. So we are continuing our low chaos run, where we are going to be attempting to get the cleanest hands and silence is golden achievements while only using tier 1 blink. I don't need any supplies, so let's just go ahead and get started.
The textile mill used to run off a water wheel before the canal went dry. It started up again recently, and whatever the Hatters did to get it working has enraged the Dead Eels. They're fighting in the streets.
Right, so there are quite a few enemies in this particular area just because the Hatters and the Dead Eels are fighting amongst themselves. There's a group of Hatters and Eels up here that are confronting each other, and if you wait long enough they'll actually fight and the Eels will beat the Hatters. So I let them go at it because I figured it was less people for me to avoid.
What's the matter? Too much knitting to do?
Sick burn. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't be laughing, but this entire conversation was way too funny to me. At one point I did try blinking up onto that ledge there because I figured it would give me a better vantage point for blinking out of the area. But then they started fighting and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna film this so you guys can enjoy the AI and how often they miss everything. Oh. That was quite the ragdoll. Okay, well, so the Hatters are not going to be getting up anytime soon. So at this point I was like, alright, I'm gonna move forward, this is fine. And I keep wanting to get up on the sledge, but I can't quite make it with the blink that I have. If I'd moved a little further forward I probably could have, but I was just worried about being seen. So at one point I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it. Nope, alright. And then nobody saw me, so I just figured, okay, well, I got lucky, so I'm gonna take advantage of this and keep moving. So yeah, that was really sloppy on my part, but it worked out in the end, you know. All planned.
Someone's still sneaking around.
So they did make me nervous because they kept being like, oh, someone's sneaking around. Don't worry, that's not necessarily them detecting you. They're just programmed to say that because some Hatters will come around this corner as soon as you do. So basically their AI will just keep being like, someone's sneaking around here, until the Hatters show up and then they'll go ahead and fight them. I pretty much bypassed everyone in this section. There is a black market in this building up ahead, so if you decide you need some supplies mid-mission, you can get them, but they're much more expensive than your pre-mission supply drops, so keep that in mind.
It's over. Just make it quick.
So I am just making my way right on past everyone because, well, this is a hostile area, and I don't want anyone to see me and ruin my silence is golden run. Okay, so all in all, pretty easy to navigate past everyone. Alright, so we made it to the riverfront undetected. Now it's just a simple matter of getting to the ship and taking out Mr. Edgar Wakefield. Now luckily, there is a very easy alternate route to boarding the ship, which I will show you momentarily. So I'm just going to be making my way up to that ledge. I can't quite reach it from where I'm at, but just moving a little further forward I was able to get there. So on the rooftop over there you'll see an individual. Oh, and she vanishes. Well, congrats, that is one of the first sightings we get of the Brigmore Witches, and they will be showing up a lot in this current mission.
Wakefield's probably keeping himself below decks, whatever I do to him.
So apparently, Wakefield is keeping himself below decks. Luckily for us that is the case because we can actually swim under the boat and enter through a hatch. Now, I don't know why a boat would have a hatch on the bottom. Maybe to drain water out, but to me that seems kind of like a hazard that could cause the boat to sink, but what do I know? I know literally nothing about anything nautical. So we are going to take advantage of this perhaps questionable design choice. If I wouldn't get stuck on all of the edges. Yes, thank you. I would like to board the ship. And there's our man Edgar. Pretty much not paying attention, so really easy for us to take out.
I remember. Time to signal Lizzie.
Right, we're just gonna leave him here. Lizzie can deal with him however she wants. That's her problem now. Certainly not ours anymore. So the dead eels that are on deck are still hostile. They will remain hostile until you signal Lizzie, so you have to be careful getting to this signal here, because if they do see you, they will get very upset.
Lizzie Stride is assuming control of the dead eels now. She's ordered them to give you safe passage.
Your friend Edgar Wakefield sent me up to be taken by the City Watch, and you followed him. Took his orders. But you know what? I forgive you. All of you. I'm filled with love. But the following people each owe me a finger. Logan, Douglas, Bang Bang, Ferris, Pigface, the Bakers, and Annabelle. Shit. 2 from you, Annabelle. Have a good night. That piece of garbage, Edgar. I'm still living with his incompetence. He let the Hatters cripple the Undine.
Ship seems fine to me.
They took the engine coil. We're dead in the water.
What is it? Can we make a new one?
They don't make them anymore, not for an engine like the Undine's. We'll have to get it back.
The geezer still leads the Hatter gang, right? I'll pay him a visit.
It won't be that easy. There's a snag.
Always is. What's this one?
The geezer's about 100 years old by now. He's got it rigged so that if he dies, the whole place gets gassed. So they're real careful around him. Got him a nurse and everything. Maybe you can cut a deal for that engine coil. Turn on the charm. One of the Hatters gave me their door password in exchange for keeping the rest of his fingers. It's whalebone. I never got to use it on account of the gas. And being in jail.
Just be ready to move when I get back.
Well, naturally, it's not just as simple as getting the boat back. We have to do yet more work. But that's fine, you know, we're Dowd, we got this, we're professional, we know what we're doing. And luckily for us, all of the dead eels that we see in this particular section and in the previous section won't attack us if they see us, so that makes our life a lot easier. You see me occasionally picking up valuables. That's because there is an achievement that is only accessible in a low chaos run to get 10,000 gold coins by the end of the Brigmore Witches, and gosh, I can't remember the name, but it's basically like starting over new or something like that. It's quite difficult to get because you pretty much have to be looting quite a bit of gold from all of the missions to get it, and not buying any supplies or favors. Now, I didn't buy any favors, and I bought very minimal supplies, but I still only finished this playthrough with, I think, like 3,000 gold. So you really have to look around on the different levels and scrounge for all the valuables that you can. I just figured it would slow down the playthrough way too much, so, you know, maybe at some point in time I'll try it, but not for this run.
What?
So you can get to the Hatter area through that entrance I was just showing, but I find this one to be a lot simpler, just because it's easier to get around the arc pylon that's in the hallway here.
Quiet in the city. Almost like it used to be.
I was trying to be careful here because I really didn't want to get hit by the pylon. Luckily, I was able to blink right on past it and then right past the guards because they were busy talking about something or the other, who knows. Something very important, I'm sure.
What's the password?
Whalebone.
Come in, Hatter.
Sir, the Hatters are using the textile machines to make shrouds for the plague dead.
Now we know why they took the engine coil.
The man who runs the Hatters is more cunning than he looks. He can flood this place with a toxic gas. In time, it'll eat through our air filters. You may have to make a deal.
Yeah, so it's very important to note, if you're playing through High Chaos and you plan to kill the geezer, you will need to take the time to find the antitoxin, because if you kill him, it will kill you. Alright, so I'm going to be going through a side entrance because there's a wall of light there and I don't want to deal with it, but that means I need a key. Luckily for me, this gentleman down here has a key just sitting on his belt there, but I have to wait for his conversation with his friend to be done. I'm pretty sure that his friend wouldn't be able to see me, but I wasn't 100% sure, and I just didn't want to risk it. So I waited for their conversation to be over and for this guy to turn around, and then I just blinked on behind him, grabbed the key, and made my way out of there. But of course, you know me, if I see things to pick up, I'm tempted, but I couldn't carry any more elixirs, so whatever. Alright, so it looks like the way is clear, so I'm just going to blink on down. Luckily nobody heard me breaking these boards open. And it did take a minute to loot these cabinets, just because, well, one of them had a mana potion, so I figured there's gotta be good stuff in them. I did leave the grenade though, just because I didn't need it. Right, be aware there is a worker that walks around in this area, so you might have to wait for her to turn away before you can open up the door and blink to the pipes. There are also quite a few Hatters that patrol the area, especially these stairs that are coming up here. So it did take me, I think, like 2 tries to get up the stairs to the level I needed to be at, just because the patrolling Hatters kept catching a glimpse of me, and it was messing up their patrol patterns, and it was causing me problems, basically. But I worked my way around it. So as you can see, there's a Hatter there. I was just waiting for him to turn around so I could get a little further up. And there's a Hatter on that railing right there, and I was waiting for him to go up to the next level so that I could blink over to where I needed to be. Oh yeah, sure, take your time. There's no deadline here at all. No rush. It's fine. Alright, there he goes. So I'm gonna make my way over to the office. Because there's an interesting scene taking place in this office between the geezer and the nurse that he's supposedly hired to take care of him.
Wakefield's miscalculated badly. I predicted this would happen, of course. A man like Wakefield knows which end of a knife is for stabbing, but not much else. What's that? Oh, stop complaining, old man. I'm giving you a legacy. What were the Hatters before I arrived? I'll tell you. A shadow of their former selves. The butt of numerous jokes, in fact. Why did the Hatter piss in his own hat? What did the Hatter do with his last bullet? And so on. The answers aren't worth repeating. Leadership. That's what was missing. What with the embarrassing defeat at the hands of the Bottle Street Boys of all things. There now. You mustn't become agitated. You'll inflame your arteries, which will only cause you unneeded agony.
So yeah, basically the nurse is keeping the geezer alive just so that the nurse can low-key run the Hatter gang, because, well, he claims he's the only one that can understand the geezer at this point, when the truth is he's just using him to lead vicariously, so to speak. So if you do decide to go the High Chaos route and kill the geezer, here is the section you'll need to go to in order to get the antitoxin recipe. behind this blackboard here, there's some gold, but there's also the recipe for the toxin, which I didn't pick up because, well, I don't need it, but in the event that you do need it. And I can't tell you with certainty where all the ingredients are, but I do know where one is.
My name's Dowd. I'm looking for Lizzie Stride's missing engine coil. I'm giving you a chance to make a deal.
Yes, sir. Very reasonable offer. Geezer here says you're in luck. We only need that engine coil because someone shut off the flow that turns our water wheel. I sent men into the sewers to restore the flow, and not one of them came back. But what stopped them won't be a problem for the famous Dowd, will it? When the water flows, I'll give you the engine coil. Here's the key to the sewer entrance, and it's a pleasure to do business with you, Mr. Dowd.
So luckily for us, the Hatters are now a neutral party, so I can make my way through this area without having to worry about remaining undetected. Man, this guy does not look good, does he? Yikes. Sorry about what happened to you, buddy. Of course, I wasn't 100% sure to start with, so I kind of ran over here as a way to test, like, hey, will this lady freak out if she sees me? But she didn't, so I was like, oh, okay, good. I should be free to run through. And true to what the game said, the Hatters were in fact neutral. I know when this DLC first came out, there were some bugs where only the Hatters on that floor were neutral and the rest of the Hatters were still hostile, and it was a whole issue. Alright, so remember how earlier I said I knew where one of the ingredients was? That's because it's sitting right there. And I only figured that out because at one point I picked up the recipe, and then when I eventually reloaded the game, I was like, well, I don't need to pick it up, whatever. And I saw that that was one of the ingredients, and then when I went in that room, I was like, oh, look at that. But yeah, I don't know where the other two are, just because I don't generally play high chaos runs, so I've never needed to know it. And it could very well be that you don't necessarily need the antitoxin if you get in and get out fast enough. I don't know, I don't play high chaos, so maybe somebody who's more familiar with that playstyle can enlighten me. So, the sewers. Definitely the hardest section of this mission, and not just because there are acid-spitting plants and also swarms of rats that will nibble at your ankles, but there are quite a few Brigmore witches, which is not something that we really want to deal with. So as you can see, or hear, there's someone calling out for assistance in the distance, and we can kind of see her on the screen here. I mean, you know, if you want to be a good Samaritan and go help her, I say go for it. You're a better person than me. I decided not to help her because that was suspicious as all hell, and I figured something bad would probably happen because, well, this is Dishonored. And yeah, turns out I was right. She is a member of the Brigmore Witches, and when you open the door here, you can actually hear some interesting dialogue. Yes, someone is coming. So basically there's two more witches in here that are waiting for you to come by. So you might want to blink past them pretty quickly or they will see you. As you can see, they had one tier of detection there. But other than that, they had no idea that I was in the area. So yeah, kind of dodged a bullet there. Moral of the story, don't trust questionable individuals in the sewer. Okay, so there are two witches that will patrol this particular area. When they're done with this conversation, they will end up blinking all over this floor, and it can be kind of hard to deal with. So you might want to consider approaching this area, getting this note, and then getting to the bottom level before they end their conversation. It'll make your life easier. Why do we need that note, you might ask? Well, we need a wrench, and we don't know where that is until we pick up the note, and then it'll show up on our map. The problem with this lower level is there are 4 different weepers that walk around. Now normally I would say no big deal, just avoid the weepers. Well, unfortunately you're going to need to do quite a bit of work down here, which means the weepers are very likely to see you, so I decided to take out all of them. Of course, it's entirely possible to do it without taking out any weepers, but it just makes your life so much easier. And don't worry, by the way, if the witch's dialogue seems like they've heard you. They'll say things like, oh, what's going on here, I wonder, and all sorts of things. That doesn't mean they've detected you, it just means that so happens to be the line that the game decided, ah yes, an appropriate line to say. And they will not come down to this lower level unless they actually do detect you, so the only thing you need to worry about down here are the Weepers. I'm not struggling. All planned. As you can see, there's one guy over there. He was almost like glitched into the wall. Luckily for us, that meant that he wasn't really seeing us for whatever reason. Like, he definitely should have seen us there, or at least been semi-aware that we were there. But he definitely had no idea. So you can kind of see me looking at him, and I'm like, how am I supposed to blink behind him? He's like attached to the wall. That's going to be a pain. But no big deal. I can be patient. I can wait for him to move, except he's definitely not moved the entire time I've been down here, and that seems pretty questionable. So yeah, I think he was actually stuck, because I'm pretty sure I've seen playthroughs before where he actually moves around, but not in my case. So I decided, you know what, I will worry about him later. I'm going to go grab the wrench first, because that's at least easy. And then I know that there's another guy over here, which he seems out of the way, but I will need to be over in this section later, so I decided to just deal with him. And I could have left the Weepers down here because the witches don't really come down to the lower level, but I decided to just, you know what, play it safe. They definitely won't come into this room, so... And our friend here is still not moved, so I decided, you know what, I gotta live a little. He's definitely not gonna move. I'm just gonna blink past him and hope for the best. Completely oblivious. I'm still maintain that he was bugged out a little bit there. But it worked out for us, so what do we care?
Please, I'm sick of hearing about it.
Just gonna put him with his friends. Take a nap, guys, it'll be fine. So before we head back up the stairs to use the wrench that we picked up, we are going to grab this whale oil tank and plug it into the machine here because we are going to need it later for our great escape. I mean, we could go back the way we came, but there's some witches back there, and yeah, basically this other way's easier. So first things first, we need to untangle these water wheels here that the magical trees or whatever have grown onto. I don't know. It's suggested that the witches have done this because, well, why else would they be down here? But anyway, this is the whole thing. I don't quite know why they decided to do this. I'm sure the game probably explains it and I just wasn't paying attention. But they definitely did hear me because I made some noise. But luckily, they seem none the wiser as to where I am. But that's why I took out the Weepers, because they're definitely more receptive to the noises you're making because they're a lot closer to you. So it's just a lot safer to deal with them and not have to worry about them seeing you. I got really lucky and happened to come back upstairs at a time when both the witches' patrol routes had nothing to do with this little valve section here. So I was able to use the wrench and leave without them seeing me, because they do start freaking out once the water turns back on, because they're like, hey, it's not supposed to be doing that. Like, what's going on? Someone's here. Well, you're right, someone was here, but they're not here anymore, because I'm leaving. So we're just gonna flip this switch here, and this is why we needed the whale oil, because, well, basically this fan is busted, and we're about to break it even more. Yep, that was totally safe and to code. Good job, whoever built this. Now there is an outsider shrine in this area, and usually I avoid picking up runes, but I'll pick up the ones at the shrine just for the dialogue with the outsider.
You're putting it together, aren't you? It's not easy. Delilah's exceedingly bright. Her coven is rising, with her as the night star to guide them. Change is coming, and Delilah has a plan. But do you, Dowd? And I don't mean stealing an engine coil or slitting an old man's throat. You're charging upriver, and I do believe you'll make it. But what will you do with what you find there?
Ah yes, that made perfect sense and definitely was not cryptic whatsoever. Thank you, outsider. As per usual, you are a font of wisdom, and I'm so glad I took the time to talk to you. I'm sure Dowd is a sarcastic guy, right? Yeah, I'm sure Dowd appreciates that. Alright, so there are the rats that I was talking about earlier and nibbling at the ankles. So I'm just gonna race on past them and, you know, take a few hits because I'm apparently bad. Alright, the Hatters are still neutral, so I'm not gonna bother sneaking around. It would be much faster to go through the now disabled wall of light, but I kind of forgot about it being disabled. So I was like, oh, I should go through here. And then I was like, hey, I have a bone charm that restores health when I drink. I'm just gonna do that. So I did. Not that I needed the health, but oh well. So we are just gonna make our way all the way back up to the geezer and the nurse. By the way, I say that the Hatters are not hostile anymore. It's true. If they see you, they won't get upset and count as detected, but if you stand too close to them, they will kick you because they're rude dudes. You know how it is.
It's done. But I don't think you'll see your men again.
Caesar says a deal's a deal. The code is 572.
Something to keep in mind, that code is always randomly generated, probably because Bethesda figured, oh, well, if we keep the same code every time, people don't have to bother with all of this. They can just, you know, put in the code and be done with it. So, since it is randomly generated, you might want to write it down or something just in case you forget. Otherwise, you'll have to reload and come back down here again. Alright, there's the engine coil.
Chunk of metal and wiring. If this gets me closer to Delilah's throat, so be it.
Well, Dowd seems excited, so I suppose we should be too. That's all we need to do here, so we're just gonna make our way right on out. I once again take the slow route because I forget that I've disabled the wall of light and can go that way. And then I get stuck on the window. Truly, I am a master assassin. Alright, now that we've defeated our most hated nemesis, the window, I will head back on over to Draper's ward. Now, I wasn't 100% sure if these Hatters were non-hostile, just like the ones inside the textile mill, and I didn't want to take any chances. I'm thinking they probably were non-hostile because there's no way that guy wouldn't have seen me in that situation. I mean, he was looking right at me. So I think that you should be okay, but I just decided to play it safe. But once I'm in this section, I know that there are only dead eels, so I'm safe regardless. Oh, and apparently one very dead Hatter. I am so sorry, man. That looks pretty bad. You might want to put a band-aid on it or something.
More time for business. We need to...
Alright, to the waterfront we go. Now, there's only one last catch in this mission if you're trying to play through in a Silence is Golden run. So, you're gonna run back and return the engine coil, and that's great. But the minute you put the engine coil back on the boat, some enemies are going to spawn. So what you need to do is, before you put the engine coil on, crouch, and then be ready to blink under that cart right there. As you can see, some witches have spawned in and are fighting the dead eels. Do not engage, because if you engage, the chances are they will detect you, and that will ruin your Silence is Golden run. So the dead eels will take care of the witches, no problem. You can just hang out underneath the cart and enjoy the fact that you don't have to do everything for once. Someone else is helping you for the first time in pretty much the entire Dishonored series. It's a good feeling, you know? Thank you, Lizzie. You've given me hope again. Also, good job taking out the witches, dang.
Please, do the honors, Dowd. Fire up the engine from the bridge. Get us underway.
Well, don't mind if I do, Lizzie. Because I think it's abundantly clear Delilah knows that we're up to something, so we need to get to her ASAP before she can stop us. Alright, to Brigmore Manor we go. And that is it for the second mission. As you can see, low chaos, we didn't kill anyone, and we were never detected. So, keep an eye out for the next episode where we will finally take care of Delilah and figure out just what she's up to over at the Brigmore Manor. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.